From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Sima Wali, I thank you for being with us. I had the opportunity of listening to you yesterday, and I thought that you made a wonderful presentation for the case of Afghani women. You are yourself an Afghani woman who has battled a number of battles, who has received awards from numerous institutions, including Amnesty International, for the work you have done. Tell me a little bit about you. Where were you born?
I was born in Kandahar in Afghanistan, and I was raised in Kabul. And I continued to live in Kabul until the time of the Soviet invasion. The actual invasion came after I left. I left 3 months before the Soviet invasion.
And where did you go when you left?
I fled Afghanistan to come to the United States and seek refuge and asylum in the United States. And since then I've been living and working in the US and have focused my work primarily on Afghan women, and of course on women who have been affected by war throughout the world. And since well before the Taliban, I spent a lot of time working on the Afghan situation and exclusively focused our programs to promote the empowerment and to raise awareness about the situation of Afghan refugees, internally displaced people, and the Afghan people in general. And the focus of my work is on Afghan civil society institutions and on the people of Afghanistan who are running their own community-based organizations, and they have done so in the past 23 years of conflict, and my work focuses on promoting the empowerment of these grassroots organizers and civil rights institutions.
So both men and women?
We focus on both men and women because...
and children?
And of course, because these grassroots community organizers focus on the entire community. They provide the basic human services and the critically needed services to their communities, because we have not had a government that has focused on the Afghan people for 23 years, and the women have suffered immensely. It's the women who have suffered disproportionately from the conflict in Afghanistan.
Is it primarily in education or economically or socially? What has been taken away in a way from them? Because I know that there were women members of parliament, you had women teachers, doctors, and so on. Is that primarily in education? Was that the first impact, and then other things?
It's been in all sectors. It's been in the education sector, in the fact that the lives of the Afghans have been disrupted, and it's the women who have borne the brunt of the war, and they have suffered untold misery. And it's the women who have lost their husbands and they have become widows, and they themselves are so heavily traumatized, and they are undernourished. So they have suffered in all sectors, the health sector, education sector, the human rights sectors. And when the Taliban came into power, the very rights of Afghan women that was guaranteed and enshrined in our constitution, that was taken away from them. So progressively over the years of the war, Afghan women's rights were taken away from them.
One by one?
Yes.
Have you been traveling? Have you been going back and forth to Afghanistan?
I have been going because my work focuses on human rights, and it focuses on promoting the empowerment of the grassroots community organizers and the leaders who provide the human rights advocacy and services and education, and especially those that provided the clandestine education and schooling for girls during the time of the Taliban. Because I write about the situation, and I write and critique the human rights conditions throughout the war in Afghanistan, and because I've been known for my work, so my own security is at risk, and I've taken that calculated risk to portray the voices of the Afghan women who don't have a voice in the West. And this is my major concern, because there are many women who do remarkable work and many men who support them
as well.
At the community level. However, they're so isolated, so they're constantly, when I go back to the border to work with them, they tell me to please go to the West and take our voices out and serve as a witness to our suffering. So I have not been able to go inside Afghanistan because of the various regimes and also because of the Taliban. But I am very pleased that I'm going now in about 2 weeks. I'm going to go establish our programs in Afghanistan.
So in a way you have been the voice of the Afghanis outside Afghanistan in many ways, in the meetings that you have attended, with the people you have met. Tell us, who are some of the people you've been meeting and talking to, and how is your organization affecting changes in Afghanistan?
I try to serve as a witness to the Afghan people because they have actually requested of me at several different visitations that I've had with them at the border. And these are women and men who have crossed the border from Afghanistan to specifically talk with me and my group and also with my colleagues and those that are living as refugees in Pakistan. So I have tried to portray the reality and the needs of the Afghan people, particularly the women. I've done so by writing, attending conferences, and
you worked with the United Nations, isn't it, or through the United Nations? I know you were given awards, and you've been chosen as a speaker. And
yes, so on International Women's Day, I was pleased to give the keynote speech, and of course, I focused on Afghan women on International Women's Day this past year. So I'm happy that I get invited to opportunities such as Fulbright and other situations, so where I'm able to portray the true needs, the realities, and the aspirations of the Afghan people. And my main struggle is for the West and for women and human rights institutions and policymakers to understand what the realities of this Afghan situation and what the needs of the Afghan women are. It's not really the dress codes. It's I'm concerned that we are focusing too much in the West on the symptoms of the war, and the dress code is one of the symptoms, rather than looking at the origins of the conflict, and to provide, you have to understand the true origins and the history of what caused the war and what the origins of the war is. In order to devise solutions that are sustainable, you have to address the causes that keep women impoverished and keep them from having access to society's resources and being at grave risk. And being the targets of human rights abuses.
Of course. Tell me, did you have support from your family, from your parents, from family members who helped you, supported you, or was it difficult? Did you find obstacles, family, cultural obstacles that stood in your way as you were trying to push forward? Because it is difficult. It is difficult for a woman to be doing the things you're doing.
I lived prior to the war in Afghanistan a very sheltered life, and when the war broke out, this was in 1979, I had a passport and I was able to leave, and this is when we were under house arrest, and I actually worked with the Americans, the Peace Corps, and prior to that the American Embassy, and this was considered a threat and a very a risk in itself. For that time, obviously, I immediately had to stop working, so we were being watched very closely. And because
it was your parents and yourself?
It was my parents, basically, who said that if they would not survive, that I should take the opportunity to leave Afghanistan. And this is when I left. In a matter of 24 hours, I managed to get my visa. But then when I was in the process of acquiring the documents to leave Afghanistan, I was arrested at gunpoint and interrogated. And it was very difficult for several hours because they suspected that I was from the family, that I was supposed to be under surveillance. But I managed. There was, after several hours, they got tired of questioning me and investigating my background. one of the soldiers then said that, well, she's a woman, what kind of a threat can she be, let her leave.
Let her leave.
And I was leaving.
And they didn't understand what kind of a threat you were, and how powerful a woman's voice can be, isn't it?
And I was leaving at the pretext that I was going to visit my brother, who was then studying in Germany, and I would actually go for a short trip and come back, and I had my return tickets with me, and I had taken all of those precautions. So it was very difficult, and I left reluctantly.
And you left alone?
I left alone, and I left reluctantly, and I was actually the first Afghan refugee who arrived after the communist takeover of Afghanistan in 1979. I arrived in the United States, and since then I've been living in exile in the US. And that's when I started feeling the impact of the war, and I realized, and I had also experienced as a product of the war, the atrocities that many of my friends and extended family members had survived. And that's when I made a vow that I would serve as a voice and a witness. And I was sent by my family that if, God forbid, they did not survive, this is my immediate family, that I would take, be a representative of my family outside and take the voice of the Afghan people outside of the United States.
And your family was fine?
My family was still in Afghanistan. They left during subsequent coups under very difficult and risky conditions. But I am very lucky because my immediate family members are all alive, and they managed to escape but many of my extended family and my friends and relatives did not survive. They were subjected to torture. Many were killed, and that's why I consider prior to the Taliban, when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. So I decided then that I would serve as a witness and try to take the voice of the Afghan people outside of the United States, because we are so isolated from the world community. But over time, it is very emotionally draining work, but it's extremely rewarding when I work with people at the grassroots level. These are remarkable men and women who do the work under grave risk, at grave risk to themselves and their families. So I realized that their only hope was in me, and I had to actually serve as a voice to them in the outside world. And of course it did become very risky, and each time I would go to Pakistan, my mother is very concerned because I'm known and I have been on death threats. I've had death threats, and this last time when I was at the border working with Afghan women and men who had crossed the border during the time of the Taliban to tell me their stories and to work with us, and we provided training to the groups in Pakistan and outside in the region, and also from inside Afghanistan. My family was very concerned, and my colleagues locally know that it's threatening for me to be in the field, because I try to write on the situation and to actually bring awareness and raise awareness in the West and at international conferences. So they were giving me enough protection, and when I returned, I got a very threatening letter threatening my life, that if then they're watching me closely, and if I come back and provide the services that I provide, it would be very threatening and very dangerous for me.
But Seema, you are leading a life which is full of meaning, which is meaningful to you and meaningful to many others. And it is, in a way, you're a model for many, and the light leading others out of a period of darkness. And I want to thank you for being with us and for sharing something that is so close to your heart and which inspires us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I hope that we in the West will understand the true reality and of the Afghan people, that they're very dignified, they're tolerant, and the Afghan people are tired of war, and their wish is to have a free and democratic Afghanistan. And I hope that the Afghan people, who are very dignified people, will have the opportunity. And so far we have heard too much about the extreme voices and about the militants in Afghanistan. We have yet to hear about the needs and aspirations and the voices of the Afghan people, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to portray that in the West.
You're a wonderful representative of your people, and for their courage, for their honor, and for their dignity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.